Good morning, Broadway. This is Rebecca Talley, and I'm going to be bringing you a thought for our daily devotional today, Friday, April the 3rd. I'm happy to be with you, and I'm hoping our time together will bring you some encouragement for this week. The other day, I ran across a quote from Voltaire. It said, "God is a comedian playing for an audience too afraid to laugh." Now, I don't know the context in which he said this, but I could see 2 points that he might have been making. The first one, God just seems too high and too holy, too wonderful and powerful for us to think about him being funny or laughing or snickering about something. But as we read the Old Testament, we find many descriptions about his character that seems to point to his humor. There are verses that talks about him smiling on us, verses talking about him laughing at the rulers of this world with their plots and plans. Psalms that talk about mountains and hills bursting into songs, or trees clapping their hands in praise. So I think we could see humor in God's character in the Old Testament. But I think in some of the narrative, we could see some stories that show God's great humor. And I think one of the funniest ones is from Numbers 22, where Balaam has been working with the Moabites, and he's on his donkey going someplace God does not want him to go. And there's an angel standing right in the way, but Balaam is beating his donkey, trying to get it to go. And I think God could have communicated with Balaam in many ways, but he chose to have his donkey speak to him. And I just think that is hilarious. And Balaam doesn't even seem to react to his donkey speaking to him. God's a great comedian, but Balaam isn't laughing. And what about Jesus in the New Testament? God incarnate. Does he ever laugh? We know he weeps. We know he gets angry. But there aren't any scriptures that say Jesus laughed. But we do know that he was 100% divine, 100% human, so he had our human qualities to laugh. And when you look at his teaching, especially some of his parables, you could see through a cultural lens how they were probably very funny for his audience, like straining a gnat and swallowing a camel. Jesus was probably quite hilarious, but I think his funniest prank, it comes from Mark chapter 6. This is immediately following the feeding of the 5,000. And chapter 6, verse 45 says, "Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went into the hills to pray. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on the land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. About the 4th hour of the night, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out because they all saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, 'Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid.' Then he climbed into the boat with them." Now, I find it very strange that Jesus looked at the lake and he saw where his disciples were. He could have crossed on the lake anywhere, but he chose to walk right by their boat. And it's not like he walked to the boat and got in. He walked by it. And his disciples, thinking he was a ghost, were terrified. Now, why did he do that? It seems like he was pranking them because he certainly could have got across without them seeing him. But he let himself be seen. And I could just see him getting in the boat and saying, Andrew, if you could have seen the look on your face when you saw me. And Matthew, why are you crying? Jesus was funny. It's a great story. But his disciples were not laughing. Thinking about Voltaire's quote, God is a comedian playing for an audience too afraid to laugh. Why are we too afraid to laugh? Over and over again, Jesus' disciples were afraid when Jesus was with them. Why are we afraid? And we prank ourselves, don't we? We go to scary movies. We go to spook houses. We get on terrifying roller coasters. And we enjoy it. We get off the roller coasters laughing. Even in scary movies, we tend to laugh when we scream. Why do we do that? Why do we prank ourselves? Psychologists say that the reason people get on roller coasters over and over again, even though it's very scary, is because of the protective frame that is around them. Deep down inside, they know they are safe. Even though they'll scream and laugh as they go up and down on the roller coaster, deep down inside, they know they're safe. When we go to a scary movie, we say, oh, it's just a movie. When we go to a spook house, we have nothing to be afraid of, even though we might scream. Why is it in life when things are going up and down, things that we don't understand, why are we afraid? God is our protective frame. In Acts chapter 17, Paul is talking about how God wants us to seek him and to reach out to him and find him because he is not far away. For in him we live and breathe and have our being. Our life may be going up and down, but God is our protective frame no matter what happens. I love to laugh. I love reading Paula Hines' Facebook messages and Wendell Taylor's and Sheila Backus's. They all make me laugh. And sometimes we let the things of life bring us down. But God is our protective frame, and we can laugh. Even in times of terror, we can laugh because God is with us. So this week, I hope as we deal with all the things that we have to deal with, we'll remember that we don't have to be afraid. We can laugh because God is our protection.